In a cabin, Fred, Daphne, and Velma looked through everything they can to try to find clues. Did you guys see anything? Fred asked. Nope. Do you, Velma? Daphne asked. Underneath one of the pillows of the blankets of the beds, Velma picked up what appeared to be someone's diary. She opened up and skimmed through it a bit. This is very interesting, she said to herself. What's that, Velma? Fred asked. Velma shut the book. Oh, it's nothing, she answered. Come on, let's go. They left the room, and Velma took the diary with her, just in case. When they got outside, they saw that everyone else, save for Clark and Johnny, were out there. Hey, did you guys find any clues? Fred asked. Not a one, Justin said. Yeah, there's nothing in the woods, just trees and dirt, Tom added. Like Scoob, Janie, and I didn't find anything either, Shaggy said. Rare, roughing, Scooby agreed. Wait a minute, where's Clark? Daphne asked. Last I heard he was checking around the batting cages, Tom said. Somebody better head over there, Fred said. Me and Tom will go, Justin said. A few minutes later, after they had gotten to the cages, they discovered Clark's lifeless body. A baseball had hit him so hard in the forehead, it had cracked his skull, and blood was trickling down his forehead as well. Oh my God, Tom said. This is unreal, Justin said. This is really starting to freak me out. Dude, look, Tom yelled. Both of the boys can look up to see Jason Voorhees, standing in the bushes, looking straight at them. Hey, Justin yelled at him. Jason turned and ran off as the boys tried to follow him to catch him. But as soon as they gotten into the woods, though, Jason was nowhere to be found. Now the guys were scared. Come on, let's head back and we gotta tell the others, Tom said. As they both ran back, with terror in their steps, as they ran back to everyone else, they began panting. Guys, what is it? What's wrong? Fred asked. Jason Voorhees, that's what's wrong, Justin said. What? Heather asked. Clark's dead. Me and Justin were both there, and we all know what we saw. It was Jason Voorhees, Tom said. Are you sure? Velma asked. Yeah, Wayne was right. I've heard of the stories, and we're all screwed now. Wait a minute. I think we're jumping the gun a bit here, Fred said calmly. Like, how could you be so calm, Freddy? We should be making hockey sticks and get the puck out of here, Shaggy whimpered. Rah! Scooby shivered. Maybe Shaggy and Scooby are right, Fred. This place is too creepy, Daphne said. We can't leave now. We still gotta solve this mystery. So let's all just calm down and think logically here, Fred said. Alright, Justin said, calming down. Okay, so whoever killed Clark couldn't have gone far, right? Fred asked. Right, Heather said. Well, did anyone else leave the groups besides the time Clark was killed? Everyone stopped for a second. Heather and Justin and Tom's eyes were all wide when they realized. Hey guys, what's going on? Johnny asked, running back to them. Everyone turned to him with accusation in their eyes. Well, what's wrong? Why are you all looking at me like that? Justin, then? Johnny asked. No, it can't be true, Heather said. Johnny, where were you just now? Fred asked. I was in the bathroom. Why? What happened? Clark's dead. He was killed about 5 minutes ago, Tom said. Oh my God, Johnny said. Yeah, and don't you find it a little weird while it happened you were conveniently in the bathroom away from anyone else? Justin asked. What are you getting at? Johnny said, beginning to tense up. It was you, Daphne finally said. You're the murderer. What? No, I'm not, Johnny said defensively. Admit it, Johnny, Tom screamed. You dressed up like a hockey mask and killed Sam, Ed, Tawny, and Clark, didn't ya? I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't kill anyone, Johnny screamed. Then mind if we check your cabin for clues then? Fred asked. Fine, search everything of mine. I'm telling you I'm innocent, Johnny said. So everyone went into Johnny's cabin and began to search through his drawers. You won't find anything, he said calmly as he sat on his bed next to a closed window. They checked the counter and dresser, but found nothing. Velma then looked over at Johnny and saw how calm and collected he looked. Get off the bed, she said. Why? Johnny asked. We're going to check under your mattress. There's nothing under my mattress. Stand up, Johnny, Fred said. Johnny let out a sigh and stood up, and while the others pulled the mattress, they saw a bloody machete along with a piece of paper that looked like it had been torn out of the notebook. Again, all eyes were on my Johnny. What? That's not even my stuff. Someone's pulling a joke or something, he yelled. Tom picked up the piece of paper and read, Everything is in place now. After killing Sam, Ed, and Tawny, everyone's beginning to panic. Once I take care of the others, I'll finish Heather off nice and slow, and I will teach that little bitch for trying to break me up the last month. I should really be thanking Wayne. If he hadn't brought up Jason Voorhees, I would have never come to this. Fred had heard enough. Grab him, he said. Everyone lunged at Johnny and held him by the arms. Stop! Stop it! I'm telling you, I didn't do it! Johnny exclaimed. Well, the note says it all, Johnny, Daphne said. Look, why would I write a note like that and then stash it underneath my bed? Doesn't that make any sense to you people? Johnny asked. Like, I think we have all the evidence we need, right, Scoob? Shaggy said proudly. Rah! Scooby agreed. He picked up the machete and put it on the bed. Velma then searched the paper and studied it carefully. So, what do you think? Should we call the police? Janie asked. Yeah, get the phone, Velma, Fred said. Wait, listen, I swear to you guys, I didn't kill anybody. I'm innocent, Johnny pleaded. Somebody's trying to set me up. Velma then stopped looking at the note and smiled. Hey, you're right. Guys, let him go, she said. What are you talking about, Velma? Daphne said. I'm pretty sure Johnny's not our culprit. Then what do you mean? We had caught him red-handed, Janie said. Not necessarily, Velma added. All right, everyone huddle, Fred said. Everyone huddled in a circle while Tom and Justin kept Johnny from leaving it. Velma, what's going on? Daphne said. Well, I do have a pretty good idea on who the murderer really is, Velma answered. So like it's not Johnny? Shaggy asked. No, Velma replied. Then who is it? Scooby barked. I never mind that. I have a plan, Velma said. Then everyone heard a sound. They looked over the bed to find that the machete that was lying there was gone, and the window was now wide open. Oh no, Shaggy shivered. So what's the plan, Velma? Fred asked. Well, about a half an hour later, the trap had been set up and everyone was ready. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy were sitting on a high tree above the ground while holding a volleyball net with 2 heavy rocks attached to it. Fred and Daphne hid somewhere behind some trees, while Velma stood in the center, waiting for Jason Voorhees to make his appearance. Johnny, Janie, Ellen, and Heather hid in the cabins, waiting for confirmation that the plan had worked. Okay, now we understand the plan? Velma asked, looking up at Scooby and Shaggy. Why, yeah. Once all and Spooky arrives, me and Scoob drop the net on him, Shaggy said rather loudly. Okay, shh, someone's coming, Velma, Daphne whispered, as she heard a loud sound in the woods. Velma then turned around to see the ghoulish figure standing there, whittling with the bloody machete. She stood there completely unafraid. Jason Voorhees, you've caused a lot of trouble here, you know. By now, you and I both know that you're not Jason Voorhees, Velma said. Jason just stood there, breathing deeply. Expressionless in the hockey mask made him even more frightening. But Velma stood her ground. It's time you take off that mask and show us who you really are, she said. The zombie took a few steps closer. A chill grew down Velma's spine, but her face remained calm. You don't have anything to say? Or are you just going to stare? She asked. Jason took a few more steps. Almost there. Well, fine, I've got something to say. Now! Velma yelled. This threw Jason off as he quickly looked at the sky, saw Shaggy and Scooby drop the net down. Bombs away! Shaggy yelled. But to everyone's surprise, Jason stepped out of the way of the net and hit the floor. Velma gasped, as did Fred and Daphne. Velma stood frozen at Jason as he again advanced towards her. Run, Velma! Daphne screamed. Jason swung the machete at Velma's head, barely missing her. Not a second later, Velma took off running and Jason followed. Never looking back, Velma booked it across the woods. Slowly but surely, Jason was catching up with her. Every bit of strength she had left in her legs, Velma headed towards the lake. Occasionally she turned back to make sure the monster was still following her. One day she flew into the woods onto the beach. Velma headed towards the dock. Jason continued following after her. Once they reached the end of the dock, Velma jumped off. "Now!" she yelled before she hit the water. As Jason kept running towards the dock, he prepared to stop himself when a rope suddenly appeared from below his ankles and tripped over him, making him fall into the water. Velma's head arose from the water as she looked to see Jason flailing around the lake. She smiled and looked at the dock. "Great job, you guys," she said. Tom and Justin, who had just been the ones holding the rope. "Help! Help! I can't swim!" Jason screamed. The others looked at him, and they realized that they trapped their culprit. Later, the police had shown up. Jason was tied to a chair, and everyone was gathered around him. "And now, officer, let's see who the murderer is," Fred announced. Scooby-Doo then pulled off Jason's mask, revealing him to be Wayne? Johnny asked, astonished. "Wayne?" Heather also questioned. "Wayne?" Fred, Daphne, Janie, Scooby, and Shaggy said. "Wayne?" Tom and Justin asked. "Wayne," Velma simply said. "Yeah, it was me," Wayne scowled. "What? That doesn't make any sense," Johnny said. "It sure does," Velma said. "But Wayne, you're the one who says to warn us about the legend," Tom said. "Do you really think I was going to believe in that junk?" Wayne asked in a patronizing tone. "But Wayne, why?" Shaggy asked. "I can answer that, Shaggy," Velma said. She took out the diary that she had found and handed it to him. "What's this?" "Wayne's diary. If you look through it, you'll find the answers you need." Shaggy flipped through the diary, revealing a lot of entries. It looks like about you, Heather," Shaggy said. "Me?" Heather asked. She and Johnny walked over and looked at the diary. It was filled with pictures of Heather, drawings of her, as well as explicit fantasies and stories about her. "I don't get it. Why does this have to do with Jason?" the police officer asked. "Just look," Velma said. She took out the note from earlier and opened the diary. Velma held the page of the book together, revealing that the note had been ripped out of it. "I love you, Heather," Wayne said, looking up with hatred in his eyes. "Why did you do this?" Heather asked. "After you had broken up with that jerk face over there," Wayne indicated Johnny. "I asked you out, remember?" Heather nodded her head. "And you rejected me. Remember that too?" She nodded again. "Then I heard you got back with Johnny the next day, and I had planned this whole thing out for weeks," Wayne said. "So you killed Tawny, Clark, Ed, and Sam, and then you were going to blame the whole thing on me," Johnny said. "Yeah," Wayne laughed. "Great plan, huh? I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for..." "Yeah, we know the rest," Velma quickly said. "By the way, what happened to Sam and Ed's bodies?" the officer asked. "Check the lake. They're probably somewhere at the bottom," Wayne said. "I can't believe you'd do such a terrible thing, Wayne," Ellen said. "You're really sick, you know that?" Daphne said. Wayne just smiled sincerely, or sinisterly in a sense. "Well, we all get a little mad sometimes," he said. "Take 'em away, officer," Shaggy said proudly. "Yeah, rake 'em away," Scooby agreed. "Thank you kids, for all your help. More officers will arrive in the morning to do a proper research of the bodies. Come on, you," the officer said, taking Wayne to the car. "Scooby-Dooby-Doo!" Scooby barked. Later, everyone had gathered around one of the tables of the camp, with the machete placed down on the table. Everyone was rejoicing the fact that this nightmare had finally ended. Fred stood there, holding the hockey mask that Wayne had worn in his hand, and spoke. "Great job, you guys. We couldn't have solved this mystery without you," he said. "Let me see that, Freddy," Scooby said, taking the hockey mask and trying on his head. He began to make notions of zombie noises while everyone laughed. "What a ham," Velma said. "Now what should we do?" Daphne asked. "I got an idea. How about we all go into the cabin and play some card and board games or something?" Fred suggested. "Nah, I'm just going to go back to my room and read for a bit," Ellen said. "Are you in, guys? In, Shag?" Fred asked. "Yeah, we should play some cards first. Come on, Scoob," Shaggy said. "Okay," Scooby said. He then hung the hockey mask up on the strap of the Mystery Machine's side view mirror before following Shaggy. You do want to come too, Janie? Shaggy asked. I think I'm just going to go to sleep. You guys have fun, though, Janie said. Okay, well, good night then, Shaggy said. Daphne sighed. I'm so relieved that there's no real Jason, she said, shutting the cabin door. After they had all gone into their cabins, over by the lake, a dark figure rose up from the water. It was covered in moss and mud as it stepped into the shore. It walked slowly to the woods of the camp. The figure stepped over onto the Mystery Machine, picked up Wayne's hockey mask, and slipped it on. The monster then picked up the bloody machete it had been sitting on the table. The true Jason Voorhees was back. The real nightmare was just beginning. In Ellen's room, she was sitting on her bed, listening to music on her iPod, as she began reading another chapter of Catcher in the Rye. Suddenly, she heard a noise. Hello? She called. No one was there. Hello? She called again. Still no answer. She took off her earbuds and got up, and walked over to the door. She was almost afraid to open it. Hey, Tom, if this is you and Justin playing a trick, it's not funny, she said. She then heard screeching noise, like someone scraping a knife against the wood of the cabin. Little did she know, Jason was watching her through the window. Come on, guys, knock it off, Ellen said. She smiled and opened the door. No one was there. She stepped outside for a bit and looked around. Her eyes caught nothing. She shrugged and went back inside. But as she shut the door and turned around, she gasped as the monster grabbed her throat. So what game do you guys want to play next? Fred asked. I'm up for whatever you guys want to do, Johnny said, with his hand on Heather's shoulder. I don't know. How about Monopoly? Daphne suggested. Oh, Ellen loves that game, Tom said. Do you want to go ask her if she wants to play? Velma asked. Yeah, sure. I'll be right back, Tom said, getting up. Don't take too long, bro, or we'll start without you guys, Justin called as Tom walked over to the door. When Tom got to Ellen's cabin, he lightly tapped on the door. Ellen, you in there? We're going to play some Monopoly. Are you in? He asked. Ellen? He called again. He slowly opened the door and walked inside. His eyes widened as he saw the figure standing in front of Ellen, hanging from the bed sheets by the fan on the ceiling. Even more fear struck Tom's heart as the murderer turned to face his next victim. What's taking him so long? Justin asked impatiently. Tom's been gone for 10 whole minutes. Maybe he and Ellen want some alone time, Velma said. Yeah, right. They're not a couple, Justin said. Like he has been gone for a while, Shaggy said. Maybe we should go and check on them, Fred said. Yeah, Daphne agreed. They all got up and walked over to Ellen's cabin. Velma knocked on the door. Guys, you in there? She called. There was no answer. Velma decided to turn the lock, and they all went in. Everyone gasped in horror as they saw Ellen's body hanging. From behind them, someone trapped Johnny's shoulder twice. He looked around and saw the monster. He tapped everyone else until their eyes met the killer's. All of their eyes widened. This didn't look like the Jason they had seen before. This wasn't Wayne. It was the apparent body of this person that was decaying and soaked in the lake water. There was no denying of it. This was a Janine article. The real Jason Voorhees. Oh my God, Heather said, frightened. They all backed up further into the cabin. Jason just stood there, staring at all of them. Scooby and Shaggy couldn't believe what they were seeing. They were filled with the most terrified out of everyone in the group. Get them, Scoob, Shaggy muttered. Oh, okay, Raggy, Scooby whimpered. As Scooby walked closer to Jason Voorhees, he began to refind confidence. He took a boxer stance and started punching Jason's chest. He was unfazed. Get him, Scooby, Daphne called. Scooby threw a few more punches at the unaffected zombie. After landing one final blow to Jason's chest, Scooby got tired and walked back over to the gang. Why, thanks for trying, Scoob, Shaggy said. Rory Raggy, Scooby said sheepishly. Alright, enough of the comedy, Jason then lunged at all of them with his machete. They all screamed and took out of the cabin. A classic Scooby-Doo chase scene began. The kids went one way, Jason went into the other. They ran into a cabin, he went in after them, only to reveal them being out of a different cabin. At this point, it was only Shaggy and Scooby being chased by Jason. As they ran into the stockroom, they hid from Jason in some barrels. Jason stabbed his machete into the assumed barrels that they were hiding in, only to find that they had somehow moved to another barrel. After 5 whole minutes of fruitless running around, the gang finally lost Jason. Panting, they all contemplated on what they were going to do. "I can't believe it! Jason Voorhees is real?" Daphne said. "Johnny, I'm so scared," Heather said, going into her boyfriend's arms. "Fred, we can't stay here. We need to get out of here as soon as possible," Johnny said. "Agreed," Fred said. "But we can't just go. We have to find another way to stop the monster," Velma said. "Like you figured out how to stop the monster, Scoop and I are going to get the heck out of here, Dodge, before we get killed next," Shaggy said. "Rah!" Scooby agreed. "Look, we can leave and come back after we find another way to stop him. If we stay here, there won't be a plan, 'cause we'll all be dead," Justin said. "Justin's right. We should get to a place and think of something safe from there," Fred said. As they all started to walk through the woods to head towards the mystery machine, Johnny abruptly stopped. "Wait a minute," he said. "Aren't we a short person?" Shaggy gasped. "Janie," he said. Back at the cabin, lightning crackled in the sky. Janie had always hated storms, and just when she was about to go to sleep, the sound of thunder jolted her awake. She got up and looked at the window by her bed, saw the rain poured from the sky. She turned away from the window. The outside figure of Jason Voorhees looked into it. The thunder roared again, and Janie was beginning to feel scared. She started to breathe harder and faster. "Calm down. It's just a storm. You're okay," she said to herself. Suddenly, out of nowhere, something huge was thrown onto her window. She jumped when she heard the crash of glass. She then saw what it was, shrieked in absolute consideration. It was the beaten body, bloody, of Tom. His face had numerous cuts all over it. He looked so gruesome, you could hardly recognize him. In all of her horror, Janie accidentally ran out of the door of her cabin. As she ran, she looked back one last time, before running straight into exactly what she was running away from, the impact that caused her to fall back to the ground. Her eyes gazed upon the expressionless hockey mask. He just stood there with a machete in his hand, just watching her, while never letting her eyes leave the visage of the monster. Janie tried to quickly crawl backwards. She backed up until her back touched the cabin. As usual, Jason just stood there, staring at Janie as she panicked and saw him raise the arm with the machete in it, but was several feet away from him. She wasn't sure what he was doing. Then she just realized he was going to throw the machete at her. Janie closed her eyes tightly, awaited for her demise. Just as when the monster was about to throw the bloody machete to end Janie's life, bam! The mystery machine had collided with Jason. His body rolled up onto the car before falling to the ground in front of Janie. Janie just stood there, shocked, as the sliding door of the van opened. "Get in!" Shaggy called. Without any hesitation, Janie got up and ran past Johnny's seemingly unconscious body, or Jason's, into the van with everyone else. "Go, Fred!" Velma yelled. Fred put the pedal in the metal and started to drive off. "What the hell is going on?" Janie demanded. "Race and Voorhees," Scooby said. "What?" Janie couldn't believe it. "Yeah, we couldn't believe it either," Justin said. "What do we do for now, Freddy?" Daphne asked. "Well, for now, we just gotta get out of Crystal Lake," Fred said. "And then from there we can..." Bam! Everyone suddenly screamed as Jason was right in front of the car. Fred couldn't see the road anymore. "Oh my God!" Heather screamed, partially weeping from fear. Everyone's horror intensified when Jason plunged his fist through the windshield, attempting to grab Daphne. "Zoinks!" Shaggy screamed. Knowing it was necessary, Fred swerved the car in a circle, which caused Jason to slide off the car and hit the pavement. All of their hearts were pounding. Even as Fred drove past the "Welcome to Camp Crystal Lake" sign, their spirits were not quibbled by any fear.